I'm going to introduce the ecosystem session itself and then introduce our guest for today. So welcome everyone. It's the 25th of January 2021. So welcome to another ecosystem session. Today we have Ferananda and Eric from the Coventina Foundation. So we're going to learn a little bit more about them, the foundation, and see a beautiful map of the regenerative economy, which I can't wait for. There's always a map nearby Ferananda. So I was just waiting for it. So Fer, will you start by introducing yourself, and then Eric can introduce himself, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. For this context, what I feel most appropriate to share is that I've been connected to this field since almost 2 decades, working with Arthur and Eric Harris Brown and the Metacurrency Project. And for those that have tracked the lineage of how that goes, to just call it Metacurrency and Holo and Holochain and Commons Engine and Coventina are a family of organizations that are very aligned towards the purpose of creating new patterns for organizing society in collective intelligence and coordinated action. And I've been playing different roles within those organizations. I'm a co-director. We're kind of shifting it to stewardship instead of a director of Commons Engine, and chairwoman of the board for the Coventina Foundation, which we've been working in for some time, but right now it feels like more appropriate than ever. And my passion is collective intelligence, and that takes so many forms. And, technology will help us to augment it and create beautiful patterns for coordination with the values that we want to see and the principles of living systems. So that's why I'm here to create that world that we know that in our hearts that is possible all around human flourishing, knowing that thriving doesn't happen in individuals, it happens in collectives. So I'm here.
Super. Okay, Eric, how about yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Ferananda. Thank you, David. My name is Eric Gauthier. How can I describe myself? So I've started my first business when I was 20 years old, while I was studying electrical engineering in the Montreal Polytechnic. And we've built the first company that was just at the cusp of the disruption of travel by the internet. And then we developed applications. One of the first SaaS model, 1997, that was enabling travel agencies in Canada and the US to be able to compete with Expedia and to facilitate the transition from a brick and mortar and to becoming online businesses. And then, so did a great deal of travel, super curious about life, about meditation, spirituality, understanding how things really work, and what's the place of the creator in that journey of creation, and how can we facilitate better states, mental states to innovate. And one of our sayings is that innovation requires self-innovation. And so developed over the years, developed all sorts of innovation labs. And this is how that Ferananda and I got in touch together 5 years ago through the Tangle Lab initiative. And also we do have, I'm also a technology investor. So we have a family office in Canada. We've invested in 70 companies in the last 15 years. So I come from being on the side of building stuff, being on the side of investing in stuff, and now we're on the side of the Coventina Foundation, which is to support the emergence of the new internet, to be able to impact the world, understand what's going on in the world, and to build new applications, new culture, and new business models that enable that world to pivot and to be able to respond faster to the pace of information. So really moving from the industrial age into the information age, and supporting amazing tech companies to be able to achieve their dreams and to bring more value together instead of building stuff apart like we've been doing for a while. So I'm happy to be here with you guys. Thank you.
Okay, superb. So could one or both of you just tell us a little bit more about the Coventina Foundation, what it is? You don't have to go into too much detail, just give us a little bit of an overview to set the context.
Yeah, I'm happy to, oh, you were speaking, so you want to go first?
I muted. Why didn't you give us your short version and then I'll pitch in?
Well, or you could both say it at the same time.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so we rehearsed this very...
Go ahead, Eric.
Sure, I can give you a high overview. So the Coventina Foundation is a purpose organization whose mission is to build, deploy, and finance asset-backed and reputational-based cryptocurrencies to create a grassroots regenerative economical infrastructure for the world. So our goal is essentially to increase humanity's responsiveness to the emerging challenges that we're going through, such as climate change, by decentralizing governance and economical power, empowering everybody to thrive.
And now I'm going to give you the other side, which is the part of why Coventina. You know, Coventina, because of the times that we're living on COVID-19, they were like, oh, Coventina, right, that's why. No, nothing to do. It's a goddess, and goes like co, which is coming together, coming, then, which is together, and then of flows, Tina. So she is the goddess of the waters, like Mare or Jemaya. And, one of the reasons why we chose a goddess of flow and abundance and inspiration and, a nymph of water is because we want to create flows, better harmonious flows for humanity, so that we can move from those extractive ways of our current moment, of our present, of the industrial economies, into something that allows us to be creators in these new, and I wouldn't say this new, but in this like present moment where that needs so much of our energy and our heart. And for those tracking Scepter, Coventina is Coventina framework, which used to be Scepter. And Scepter was chosen because of receptors sites, which is living systems, receptivity. Yet most people interpret the name as the scepter of the king. And we wanted to move into more feminine awareness, because part of the Holochain technology, part of what calls me is that Holochain technology is based on biomimicry design and the design of living systems and life. And so that means that we're learning, right? We're learning with our oldest consultant on the world that has proven incredible success, which is nature. And if we learn from nature and we design our technologies based upon that inspiration, and then we place architectures and processes that work in that symphony, then we'll be able to thrive together, to blossom together, in spite of all our current challenges. And, one of the first aspects of that mission goes to economic infrastructure, but it doesn't stop there, For those that really like the lineage of Scepter know that currencies is part of it, but it's also computation and communication. So, you know, the coming together to work with Holochain and with Holochain creators and Holochain funders and investors is part of the relationship that we want to see happen. We're here to weave relationship and partnership to be creators together, because all flourishing is mutual. And so it's really an invitation and a field that we are creating.
Okay, super. Well, you've both touched on it a little bit, but I'm assuming, like, when you're talking, Fer, about creating this field, we're creating this field in response to something, you know? And so what are you responding to? As I said, you've both touched on a little bit, but I'd love to go a bit deeper into what you're responding to, what you're seeing, what you believe about the world right now that makes what you're doing so important.
You want to start, Eric? Since we're kind of
no, you can continue. It seems you were diving beautifully into it.
Thank you. Well, you know, we are in a moment where we hear, you know, peak oil, but it's peak climate change and peak hierarchies and peak decentralization and peak, you know, we're in a moment of just like creating new structures for humanity. We just like leaving all these events, social events and economic events and the global pandemic and you know, that could be piling in. And so we can rather wait for the governments to do something, or we can just go ahead and be creators ourselves and, you know, find the path towards that together, because it's part of the evolution. You know, like this, we see that there is a beautiful movement towards decentralization, not that everything needs to be decentralized. There's a balance of centralization and decentralization, the much as there's a balance with the feminine and the masculine, right? The future is not only feminine, it's partnership. The same way that, you know, decentralization has an incredible role at a certain scale, it just makes sense. And so what we need is to be able to create new social systems that work for all, that move us and help us compose what we have learned on capitalism, with capitalism and industrial economies, and compose it into something new that is post-supremacist, that is highly ethical, that it can go into helping literally everyone, 100% of humanity, to move towards a better world. And how that looks like is not for us to tell, because we are like enablers. You know, Coventina Foundation, I always reference it as Gandalf, you know, it's like, or, you know, we're here to put the field, to give the resources, to open up to creators, but it's creators and funders and partners that come and do the magic with us. You know, we don't do, we enable, we hold the waters of creation, just like, you know, the goddess of the waters of the lake. Remember in Arthur, and the legend of Arthur, she would bring the sword down until humanity is ready for the sword. And that sword is a sword of creation, and we're ready. And so we've been working through the ecosystem, and we, including, you know, Holochain and Commons Engine and Holo, we've been working to place a certain infrastructure and lay certain tools to make that possible. And Coventina is coming and saying, let's play. Here we are. What do you need? What are the resources? What are the capacities? What is the way to contribute to that acceleration? And one of the reasons why Eric was an incredible partner to bring in, because the Tangle process helps players to see each other, to see the paradoxes that we're living in, to be able to identify what are the new markets, the new business models, and the ways in which we can collaborate. Because, you know, a lot of collaboration is already happening in the ecosystem, but we know that there's always like more. And so we're here to partner in that creation.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ferananda. Yeah, so maybe just to add a little bit to what Fer was. So we care to create conditions in which together we can thrive. So we're, essentially our goal is to create to support an ecosystem of mission-aligned companies that understand together similar challenges that the world is going through, and then it's not a sole lonely mission of breaking through the barriers and trying to pierce a culture that is difficult to change. Like by supporting a forest, the resiliency of everybody is stronger. The exchange of information between each other, the wisdom, the knowledge, to be able to support someone else in something we're really good at, if even for 5, 10, 15 minutes, it's so inspiring. And so we want to create conditions in which hundreds, thousands of organizations around the world can share their wisdom, their knowledge for all of us to thrive. And when we speak about collective intelligence, about building currencies that are grassroots and can create a more resilient and solid ecosystem and economical ecosystem, enabling everybody to thrive. So we need to be able to accomplish this mission, this vision, then we need to have conditions and processes in place that enable everybody to own this together, so that together we grow and thrive. And this right now is so pertinent because in the last few years and last few months we've been seeing some of the dangers of centralization. How can big tech companies can decide, well, you can speak, you cannot speak, and so our freedom of speech is at stake. And maybe for some people, with reasons that we need to be careful about, like the voice that we have and the impact it has. But it comes to show that something needs to get done, so that we can decentralize and distribute the power and the reach of what everybody can do, so that it's an inclusive world. Everybody's voice can be heard, and we can help to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. Like 2020, since COVID, that gap has just increased tremendously. So we really care about offering tools and knowledge and harvesting everybody together, creating these conditions that enable us to rise together. And we don't have the and for us to speak with you and to hear you, and so if you feel like commenting, reaching out to us, that's wonderful, because we are only servants to you and to the community, and we need to understand what you care about and how we could help accelerate that for you to reach your mission faster.
Thanks. Fer, you said earlier on you were talking about collective intelligence and how underneath it's all about collective intelligence. Could you just explain a little bit more what you mean, and possibly just give me just a specific example of where you've seen collective intelligence at work and how you imagine it might scale?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Well, in the way I approach collective intelligence is very broad. I see it as a science. I see it as a science that involves, sociology and psychology and computation systems and currency design and process arts, or, good process, good facilitation is part of what enables collective intelligence. So there's many approaches to it. Biomimicry, is part of it. Being able to see and make visible the intelligence at the edges, or design technologies, for example, that enable collective intelligence would require for certain specific things, for example, holopticism, which we call holopticism, the capacity for every part to be able to see the whole. So dashboards, right, that will help for every individual to see where their energy is required, or for where the resources are moving, or where to participate and contribute, or the beauty of their contributions and what that has been creating for everyone, or so things basically. To have feedback loops. And those feedback loops then help us to improve and advance whatever is that we're working in. It's like that ebb and flow of decentralization and centralization is, so there's many ways in which we like to apply collective intelligence principles. Our own philosophy of currency design is that, because we say, currencies are to make visible, shape, or enable flows. So that could take so many forms in how to contribute to the collective intelligence of a given field. Just because you have a currency, which, money, it's an incredible tool to scale action and coordination at scale. So it just makes sense that currency is a way to do that. And in our definition, currency is currency, which is a way to see a flow or enable or making it visible. So we have the languaging of those living systems, but not only the language. We have really studied that collective intelligence that goes with the superorganisms. I mean, look at the ants, look at the monkeys, look at the whales, look at the plants, look at the ways in which trees communicate through pheromones and air, or mycelia underground. So collective intelligence is literally everywhere around us, and we by tapping into it and enabling into our human system means that we empower every individual to be their best self. So that if I'm my best self with you, a better me and a better us is a better we. And that then, brings the field into the next level.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. That is incredibly clear. And Eric, when you talked about, I guess, bringing the new internet to life and looking at inequality and looking at how technology, I guess, can shift some of these social patterns, yes, did you imagine, or how did you end up here along your journey, starting travel, and then, as you've said, you made about 70 investments into different technology companies over the last 15 years through the family office. But can you talk a little bit about your experience moving from centralized technology, which I imagine, like a lot of the your earlier experiences and investments have been in, moving into this more distributed realm, and the journey a little bit, and also how your understanding of value has changed over time?
That's a wonderful question. Thank you. And a long question, so I need to remember at the beginning. Initially, when I first started, I was 20 years old, so I knew nothing about nothing. So it was this blank slate and making all sorts of mistakes before, it took a few years before figuring out, oh, okay, so that's how we run a business. A lot of it was, a battle. There was this, okay, we need to figure out so much. And investing is also, in a way, a battle. There is this moving market. There's a reality you need to take into consideration so many things, the human aspect, how they organize the company to thrive, to innovate, and then understanding how the market's moving, what's your entry point, and how you can bring value in all of this. And then you have your assumptions, and then how these assumptions evolve. And so we came to realize at some point that, especially for entrepreneurs that care about the world, maybe they've had like an epiphany moment at some point, or a shock. So it happened through pain or through bliss. But it comes a moment when you feel that, there's making money is essential because it facilitates the sustainability of the system. But when your shifts start moving from, my goal is not just to fructify and make money, my goal is to achieve something. I understand that there's a problem in the world, there's a problem in a given industry, and I care to address that. And so as this happens, what we realize is that the perspective through which the innovator creates is based off, like 99.9% of the time, is based on what we know, on the past experiences that we've had. And even though that these experiences are great fruit because it's like a grounded experience, a grounded validation, often to create disruptive innovation, it requires to let go of everything that we know. And that leap is very disconcerting, is very challenging. And so oftentimes, with the pressure, okay, so we have my investors, they agree with the vision, they've put some money and then need to deliver. Oftentimes it creates condition that stifles innovation because then we are too focused on where we're going and not necessarily embracing what the moment is offering, what the new discoveries, what is lending. And so being able to slow down and stop and hold what we're trying to achieve, for that to transform our view, to transform ourself as a creator. So innovation requires self-innovation, to be able to transform who we are so that through that becoming, we can start seeing what is lending, what is happening back in that future. So creating the right conditions for innovation to emerge is very, very important. And so we've, by building companies and investing in companies and seeing the same pattern again and again and again in this trying to disrupt. So there's this intention to create something amazing and inexorably come back to creating the exact opposite of what we wanted to create. And it's possible that it worked and that project made a lot of money and was successful and sold to this company and another one. But what we've encountered is that oftentimes there's something that's missing. There's something that was not fully accomplished. And so we spend a lot of time in what are the optimal conditions that enable an entrepreneur to let go of everything that they know, to surrender to the unknown. And that's very much in this Coventina idea of this water and the goddess and that feminine intelligence that is happening more and more into business now. And it's this being able to hold, like something that Albert Einstein said, I'm not smarter than other people. I'm only able to hold longer to hold myself longer with the problem. And so being able to feel it, to feel what we are doing, to let that transform us, then creates optimal conditions for something new to emerge. And so we put together a Tangle Lab, worked with hundreds of companies, and then a Coventina, just one thing led to another, and a Coventina Foundation started being created and realigning with FIR to align what we know, and so being able to support an ecosystem to thrive together in that view sets of surrendering to that which is creating, so that the joy and the innovation is really, really accessible, and to create an ecosystem where everybody can thrive. So that was a little bit that process that led to Coventina. Does that make sense, David? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it sure does. Thank you. It was a long one. So, and then tell me a bit about Holochain then. So, what does Holochain have to offer?
Well, Holochain is a disruptive technology. And as immutable ledger technology enables instant communication and allows for new opportunities for better dynamics that are not, winner takes all or highly centralized dynamics, but actually in involve people coming together to create agreements. And the aspect of unenclosable carriers is so important for creating economic systems that are uncorruptible. As I mentioned before, it's really important that we look into living systems and model according to them, and Holochain does that. And Coventina Foundation, the Coventina framework, don't stop with Holochain, but they want to go through, creating more technologies as, semantic trees and all the part of computation and communication that comes as part of the evolution of what we're all working with. Holochain is it's a big piece, it's beautiful, it's a beginning of that. And same as Holo, like how could we stay in a world where client server, where we're so fragile and vulnerable to all the technology being on client servers, and then whenever somebody wants to shuts us down, and we need resilience. We need to be highly adaptive. We need to be able to build our neural network, our brain that is not dependable on the big corporations. And hopefully big corporations will have their placement and will do their thing and will continue to do great, but not in full control of our future, not in full control of who we are, not in full, the masters, not as the masters, but as part of the great design of life and evolution. So Holochain for me is that enabling piece of infrastructure. It's like if you're going to build a house, you want the right nails, And I was talking with Eric Harris-Brown. I was asking, is Holochain like the structure of the building? He's nice. No, he's something way more basic. It's like the nails or the hammer. If you will take it into living systems, what is it? Maybe it's the cells or the DNA, So the DNA for a beautiful, harmonious system that really follows life's principles.
Mm-hmm. And maybe I can just add to this for something that we find so important about Holochain is the fact that it's truly decentralized and distributed, and which can really enable a lower cost per transaction and a much higher speed per transaction. This is one of the greatest challenge with other blockchain infrastructures, is that transactions are so costly and so slow to process that it's very difficult to make microtransactions. So it really limits the types of apps that can emerge. And so we feel that Holochain framework can really be a trigger to help dApps flow and emerge and thrive, especially with what's happening today. It seems like we need something that can be competitive in terms of computing power. I think that's Art Brock that was saying that currently, other dApps framework can be all the way to 400 million times more costly than Amazon Web Services. So it's very difficult for the new internet or for a new way of building things to thrive if the cost, it's so prohibitive, it's so high. So we feel really really excited to be able to help this framework to thrive and help have everybody to adopt it, so that they can build a solid wave. Like now is the time. Now is the time to build the new internet.
So I think it's time to pull out the map, if possible, and yeah, give people a little bit of a sense of this regenerative economy.
That would be Eric. He always sharing.
Certainly. Just going to share. Okay, can you see my screen?
Sure can, yeah.
Okay, Ferananda, would you like to introduce the map? Oh, you're muted.
Okay, let me see the map so I can get inspired by the maps, isn't it, David? Yeah, it's always fun making fun of me and how inspired I am about maps. It's just like, the map is not the territory, right? But the map definitely shows us some part of the territory. So part of the territory here for the foundation in the left side, you have different domains or different we call it like universal human needs, like hosting, energy, food, transport, housing, social, healthcare, education, things that we need to be able to thrive. And in that right side, that left side, what you see is that in the orange color is a possibility to create asset-backed currencies by those things, for example, energy and food and Holo fuel, which is hosting, which is one of the first ones that we're seeing that provide for that. And the green is reputational based currencies. So you can have reputational based currencies for all the fields, but there's some of them that cannot be backed, like education. It's mostly through reputational based currencies that we see that we can accomplish evolution on education. For example, people working on future of vocation or working on guild structures, or how we co-learn and manage knowledge, or things like that. So we like to have like the infinite sign, so it starts with the left and then it moves through the center, which you see is like the whole, for those that know it, is like the Holochain DHT, so it's imagine like all these are DHTs and it's just held by Holo as well. And then as we start creating more of those, meeting those universal human needs, because, as we face all these challenges, people will keep eating and needing energy and housing. And so it's our belief that if we build a net to catch, us as we transition towards this new world, we'll be able to then go with more ease, right? Because if I don't have food, I cannot focus on anything, but how am I going to feed myself? And if I don't have a house, I cannot focus on anything else. On how am I going to house myself? But as we get to meet those needs, then, we weave deeper value together. So the emergence of new commons, because, we are very focused on how we grow the commons together. And governance of the commons and management of resources, and we'll see appearing new market, new niches of all sorts, new asset creation, and that will give us community resilience and local resilience and foster circular economies, and hopefully thrive and more vitality to all our social systems, more vibrancy and more harmony. And so that will create a high impact in multiple levels, social, cultural, psychological. I mean, just thinking that you will have your needs met could allow for you to be highly creative in other fields. So that's part of the purpose. And as we are in a world that is weaving with exponential technologies like AI and with automation and, all sorts of things that in some dystopians might feel scary. But if we are really tapping into the future and the goodness of all, then we can see AI and technology as our partner to be able to augment the collective intelligence of the whole. And so human collective intelligence, not just machine intelligence, but a partnership of sorts to be able to create and generate more value, and hopefully start creating upward spirals of value generation and goodness and truth and beauty. Truth, what a word in these times. So anything you want to add, Eric?
I think that's a great overview. Maybe just to make precision with the why we believe that building asset-backed currencies can help stabilize a new economy is, something that we saw is COVID helped to reveal a lot of the limitations of our current infrastructures and our current systems. Just when COVID hit around March, stock markets dropped by 30% within a few days, few weeks. Bitcoin dropped by 20% in 1 hour. And so by backing our economy, by first decorrelate, like the worldwide economy is all built on one thing on top of another. So by starting to decorrelate these things and to build either regional, local, regional, national, or global, so there are different layers to this economy. And so by building currencies, cryptocurrencies that are backed by real assets, no matter what happens to the worldwide economy, and more instabilities are probably coming because of climate change, and more viruses, experts say that will start coming. And now what we've done with the current vaccines, with COVID, is we paused the worldwide economy for a while and kept people separate, so they don't meet. But what happens if in 2 years there's another one and then another one? So how are we going to balance all this? So by decorrelating the economy and building, by backing these currencies with things that we need, that humans need to thrive. So whatever happens to the economy, we still need to eat as much food as the day before, maybe even more. We still need a house. We still need to power our tools, so we need the energy. A lot of our solutions are going online, so we'll need hosting and transport, either local or the global supply chain needs to continue happening. So by backing these cryptocurrencies with real assets all over the world, in local, regional, national, and global, then we hope and we believe that we'll create an economy is going to have a higher stability to the fluctuations that we've been seeing in our global economy at least in the last year. And so that's why we feel it's really important to do so. And then reputational-based currencies can be a beautiful way to inspire users to transform their behaviors. And through the betterment of that new upgraded behavior, there's value that is created from that. If we remove somebody, let's say, a homeless person from the streets and able to reintegrate them in the economy, we can save to the states $100,000 per person. And so by keeping this in mind as we design applications, then there's a lot of value that is generated from removing one homeless person from the streets and reintegrating them in the economy. So there's real value to all the people involved in helping that person transform their life and help them become to reintegrate and be more in alignment to fulfill their dreams and support their community or all the people that they'd like to help. And so that's why we're really passionate as a first place to start, to establish this infrastructures of currencies, and then help dApps to be able to thrive.
So clear. Well, it definitely is a beautiful map. I love the distributed hash table in the middle of the infinity loop as well. The capacity creator.
I love it too, because it's like us, it's like we are at the center. Because part of why we want to be able to create technologies that follow living systems and currencies that follow living systems is because we want to restore our relationship with nature.
Yep.
What is the indigenous if it's not that relationship with place and land and gifting and reciprocity and relationship with everything and everyone that surrounds us, where all flourishing is mutual, where unity is a purpose that is commonly held. And so the vision is to be integrated with that oneness and, that interdependence and interrelatedness of it all. So it's very, like out there, because just big in technologies and design and systems, and it has all of that. But that heart begins with that purpose of well-being, well-being, restoring wealth, deep wealth for each and one of us, so that we really can preserve this beautiful planet, and not only for us, but for generations, your sons and my sons and the sons and the sons of the sons. So this is our time as ancestors, and we've been given like a game that was like really rigged. So what is the game that we want to create? At least we're here and we're doing something the best that we can for that future, for that love, for that life to continue in this beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous planet.
Yeah. Super, guys. Well, is there anything else to share before we close?
It feels like we could also say a few things about how, what's the value that we see for the Coventina Foundation for technology companies that want to adopt the Holochain infrastructure, for example, as well as for funding partners. Something that we do, so essentially when we invest capital to help technology companies to adopt the technology, so their cost of development for their dApps, for the integration of the Holochain infrastructure, for Holo, adopting and the different cryptocurrencies, as well as facilitating access to the right talent and or capital to help design, build, and deploy their cryptocurrencies. So we've amassed a great wealth of knowledge and expertise over the last few years. And so the foundation is investing in tech companies to help them pay for this integration, essentially. So as to help the adoption of Holochain to become faster and to accelerate the deployment of these currencies. So that's one thing that we do. And the value for investors is that so we're oftentimes we'll make an agreement that is non-dilutive, so it's not going to be equity based. So it can be a very favorable loan conditions. So it depends. We can be very flexible with how we do this, but essentially we invest in what investors hate to do. Investors hate to invest typically into R&D, into building new technology infrastructure. They prefer to invest in, okay, so you validated your metrics and now you're growing your market reach. So we're going to invest in your growth. And so we invest in what investors don't like to do, which makes us great partners for traditional technology investors.
Mm. Super. Well, perhaps over the coming weeks and months, as things unfold and either some investments are starting to be made, and we could go into more detail, because I think a couple of case studies or examples next time we get together can really help for people out there who are also looking for the kind of partner that Coventina is, and get them to understand a little bit more. But that was a great introduction.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, that definitely will be in contact, and more materials are going to be coming out, our LinkedIn page and website and blah, 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 blah. Right now we're building our decks and our 2-pagers, and, so if people want to either track me, that they know where to find me, and, or, the Coventina Foundation Twitter account, I think is Coventina FDN. At Coventina FDN. And so that's a way to stay in touch, but it's a very, close ecosystem. We can find each other. We're not far.
Exactly. Well, thanks so much. Thanks, Fer. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, thanks for sharing and giving us a sense of what you've been working on and what's coming. It's very exciting. It's a really important piece of the ecosystem, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good to find one's placement within the ecosystem, because then what is that I'm good at, what is that's unique for us to do, but that also connects to the larger whole.
Yeah. Okay, super. Well, thanks again, guys. Thank everyone for watching. So this was a ecosystem session with Fer and Eric from the Coventina Foundation, and you'll be able to find more about the foundation in the notes. But as Fer said, if you want to find them on Twitter, it's at Coventina FDN. And yeah, we'll really look forward to hearing more over the coming months.